Hey everyone, welcome back to Porter's Product Marketing Podcast. This is episode 2. Very excited to dive deep today with Shagun Lal. She's a product marketing master, I would say, with a wealth of experience in the ever evolving B2B software space. Shagun has a proven track record of success at tech giants like Google, Microsoft, HP. That's a really interesting set of companies, Shagun, and competitors too, I might add.
Yeah, competitors, Josh, and also partners. I mean, it is the tech world that we are living in. And by the way, on that note, I just want to clarify that all the opinions that I express on this podcast are mine and do not represent the views of my employers.
And great point on that. And obviously, the same goes for me as well. So, but you have such a great and amazing background to talk about the experience of product marketing and how you've approached it. And so, I'm very, very excited to dive into how you approach some of the pieces of product marketing that we'll go into today. So now that we've got the disclaimers, we've covered all our bases. So awesome. Well, I want to talk about, what makes your career path interesting. And so while most of the time it's been tech, you worked across different products and audiences from hardware to cloud to industry solutions. What's been your favorite?
This is a hard one, Josh. I would say I love what I do now. And of course, I know we're going to come to that. But across whatever work I've done, the most exciting times have been marketing direct to consumers. And sometimes they are more SMBs than consumer. But when I've had products that are marketed direct, it's so rewarding because you can tie your marketing efforts to what's happening with the customer. And you can also pivot very quickly, especially when it comes to your digital campaigns, right? So you can
Yeah.
really see the impact you're driving, and it's super rewarding. For most of the last few years, I've worked on enterprise motions, and enterprise, it's a very different beast. Like it takes an army to drive enterprise. And of course, marketing is a contributor, but you can say it's just one of the many contributors. And it's large, it's complex, takes months to move some of those big deals. So from the audience perspective, obviously those direct customer opportunities, I absolutely remember very, very fondly when I used to do that. And then the other thing I'd say is, and I won't name any favorites, but my most enjoyable jobs have been when I'm working for products that are new, but are really redefining that market that they belong to, right? Like it's great when you have something that customers really want, they've been looking for, just to see the joys in people's eyes saying, oh my God, I really need this. It is super rewarding. So if you have a great PMF, a product market fit, you know that this is fulfilling a demand or a want that your customers had, or pain point sometimes even that your customers had. And that's super rewarding. And I'd like to add one more instance, which is
Sure.
basically working on one of my friend's startup. Now, this is not technology at all. It's like fashion retail, but I mean, it's so liberating to work on something which is not template driven at all. You're working as a very small group, which is completely in sync. Everybody is working towards the same cause. Everybody is equally passionate, excited. You have a view of the whole P&L. You're experimenting. Literally, sometimes you're going into Facebook and setting audiences. I mean, when have you done things like that, right? Like in enterprise, we have
Yeah,
so many specialized roles
totally.
across marketing, even that it's hard to get a sense of how deep some of these deep roles work. And so that was really exciting.
That's great. Yeah, you're totally right. The intimacy that comes with SMB marketing is fun because there is a lot more of the attribution you can get. There's a lot more seeing customers kind of go through the entire funnel. You just have a little more closeness with that from a marketing perspective. Yes, I'm glad you didn't name any favorites here, but it's good to hear your yeah, you definitely have have good experiences with some of the companies that you work with. So speaking of what's happening with you currently you right now are really at the forefront of what everybody's talking about, generative AI revolution. You lead global product marketing for Google Cloud's AI offering like Vertex, Search, and Agent Builder. So how does that feel?
Josh, I can't tell you, this is such an exciting time for, I think, all of us in technology, not just in marketing. And I couldn't be more thrilled to be in the right place at the right time to be working on generative AI, right? It exploded a couple of years back and no one was anticipating its arrival. So it's been a blessing to be right in the space where it's all coming together. The one thing I can tell you is that it's completely thrown out a lot of strategy books and long-term planning. We are working at like incredible speed. Like products are shifting, marketing is pivoting all the time. So there is a lot of ambiguity, but you are shaping the future of how technology is going to transform your customers' life. So it's a really incredible time. I would say that if you do not mind ambiguity, do not mind fast-pacing needs, are quick to evolve, and have a lot of patience to kind of work through some of this, it's a great time because you can be shaping what's going to change the lives of customers, industries, or even society. And for me personally also, this has been such a huge shift, even though as incredible it is to see what our customers are doing at it, which is very, very impressive. But every day I'm using generative AI. Like, I'm using Gemini for creative brainstorming. I'm using it to kind of analyze some of my documents in Notebook LM as well. I mean, it's great. And even in my personal life. So recently I've been planning a trip to Japan and I can use Gemini to even suggest like my day, how to plan my day. I can tell it how much time I have. I can tell it plan the lunch in this, plan this. It will even map out time it takes for me to walk from one place to another place. And, all of that is something that maybe not even your best travel planner will do for you. And you have a great itinerary for you. So I'm loving it. I would say as a marketer, it's such a huge opportunity. Like if you are not using generative AI in your day-to-day job, like start it now. This can actually have a game-changing impact on the work you're doing.
Absolutely. And just for context for the audience, so Shagun and I were on the same team, in the Cloud AI product marketing team, a while back. And then we're actually, that was our second team together because before we were also on industry marketing. So we've crossed paths multiple times at our time at Google Cloud. So Shagun, it's great to kind of hear that and hear how that work continues, and very exciting, really interesting space to be in. And it just continues to evolve day by day, sometimes hour by hour, it seems like. And you mentioned there at the end that tools, these generative AI, there's generative AI tools that are not only impacting just society at large, but also marketers as well. What are some specific tools that you recommend?
Well, Josh, there are multiple marketing tools out there. But what I would say is if you're starting out, some of these models are so advanced right now that you can just start off with a Gemini app or a Claude or a Chat GPT, whatever is your comfort, whatever your, or Copilot, whatever your company gives you access to or whatever you can access in your personal life. And those work great for someone who's starting out. Example, you can just create a lot of, like, let's say you have a lot of repetitive tasks. Like one of the things that I have to do for, if I have a blog, then I have to create a lot of social promo, and we have another team that does it, but they like us to suggest something. So for me to do it, every time, like, I have to create 5 different mini assets for that blog to be promoted by another team. And this is something I don't know if they're going to use it or they just need my suggestion. What I do is just go into Gemini and like I already have prompts saved in my prompt doc, and I can just use one of the prompts that I have and I can easily ask it to create those. More recently, I've started experimenting with what Gemini calls gems. So gems are almost like the same prompt, but now it's wrapped up in an app, and then you click on one of these gems, and then when you enter a task for it, it completely gets all the background information that you want. Like, for example, in my gem for social, I've added things like, this is a tone I want you to use, this is the number of characters, this for LinkedIn, and all of that information that I want it to use as it's drafting a response for me. So this makes my work that much faster. And I'm not saying you can just pick the first response it gives you. You can, obviously, it's a creative process. So you work back and forth, and sometimes you tell it to alter this, and sometimes it doesn't get what you're trying to make it do. And that's fine. But it is like having that, that person, Josh, who used to sit next to you, and sometimes you tap them on the shoulder and, hey, what do you think of this? To me, feels like the same experience, and now you're doing it with someone virtual instead of doing it with someone real. So yeah, it's great. I would say start there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a fun part of it. It's like you do have that ability to just talk to someone else and bounce ideas off of using tools like you just mentioned. So, and this is one of the reasons that it's great to have you on this podcast to not only think about the tools that are out there specifically for marketing, but in what ways to use them as not just being able to create new copy, but also as a thought partner. What do you think about this, Gemini? What do you think about this chat GPT? And get a response. And of course, there's nothing like the human element, but this is also a very good proxy because some people just not most people aren't always going to be available like at the tip of a hat. And so this is really a great way for marketers to use it in those ways that you mentioned there in terms of creating assets or using it as a sounding board. I really appreciate you sharing that, and I think a lot of other product marketers out there will find that as a useful tip. So, related to that, in your experience, what skills and experiences are most valuable in product marketing today, especially for someone who's really trying to make an impact in the B2B software space?
So, Josh, I would say it boils down to a few things, right? Like the first thing is really having a deep understanding of the customer. That is a super important skill. I don't think enough marketers think about it because everyone's working so fast towards, the next deliverable. But really, like you and I, as you mentioned earlier, we both come from the world of industry marketing, and I've spent years doing that before moving over to product. And the one thing industry does, the very humbling experience, because you very quickly realize that the industry audience don't care about your product. In fact, they barely care about technology. All they care about is their own P&L, their own business challenges, or their line of business, what is the problem that they are working on. And so you really have to take whatever your product is, and your messaging has to be crafted to answer to the challenges or the needs of those customers, right? So I think that is really important. Now, when you work for a challenger brand, which many of us in marketing do work for challenger brands, it's also important to understand the competitive space, like who are you up against? What is it that they are offering to this customer, but what is it that they are not able to offer to this customer? One of the things like security, for example, comes up in all of our conversations. It's not something I'll think of as a first thing as a marketer. It's not that shiny thing, but it's very, very important in the enterprise space that they need to know that their data privacy, compliance, security needs are going to be met by this offering that you have. And a lot of times they don't go with someone else because you're able to do a better job at it. Understanding your customers, understanding their pain points, understanding what will make you succeed with them. This you can do this in multiple ways. You spend a lot of time with them. Sales can give you a lot of great feedback. Product, social, sentiment analysis, multiple paths to this. But that's one thing that I would say. And then connected to this is really understanding your product. Josh, and you don't have to be an engineer. I often get that question. Do I have to be an engineer to be in product marketing? I don't think that's what we're trying to do. We're not building products, but we are doing something that is equally important. In fact, even more important. We are helping abstract those products to explain them to customers as to what these products can do. Often our decision makers are not themselves very technical, or they're CXO or they're execs, and you have to talk to them very differently. You cannot go and tell them like, here are the 5 points and here's that little feature that's going to change your life. Little feature is not probably going to change your life, but understanding ROI, understanding cost, understanding all of those things might, right? So we have a very important role to fulfill, and you can do that if you understand what is that product that you're bringing to market. You spend a lot of time with your product teams as well as the product itself. If you can experience the surface, I mean, this is why I personally gravitate towards products that are used by LOBs or more broadly used than very, very, very technical projects like
Yeah.
storage systems, because I can understand them, I can grok them, I know what they are trying to solve for, and I can talk to the buyers for them. So it makes your job easier. And then the final thing, Josh, and this is actually more broader. It's not product marketing, it potentially applies to all of marketing, is really the ability to work with cross-functional stakeholders, right? You and me both know how many cross-functional stakeholders we had when we used to work together. Their product, there's engineering, there's AR, there's PR, there's demand gen, there's social, there's field marketing, there's sales, there's there's like a whole number of teams that you need to track, and you need to make sure that you're seen as a critical partner for them. And you can't do that if you're not good at working across all these teams. You have to influence them. In a big enterprise, you are competing for shelf space
Yep.
with other products. There's so many products. So how do you work across all these teams, and how do you influence them, and how do you keep them happy? These are very important skills, I think, for any product marketer to succeed.
100%. I agree with all those things. Really what it comes down to, just kind of summarize what you're saying there, is one is understanding the customer. I mean, that's marketing 101, know your audience. And so what are their pain points? What are the things that they're struggling with? And to your point, they don't really care about the product. They almost really don't care about the tech. It's about what is the job that it is solving for the problem that they're looking to fix. So that's really key. And in the end, it's helping the customer, from the customer's perspective, show me you know me, right? It's like, show the customer that you know them and know what they're struggling with. And so that's the market part of the product marketing piece, right? Is that market, understanding who is buying this product. And then also, as you mentioned too, the competition. Well, who else is offering a way to solve their problem? And what are the ways that you are doing it differently? Or is it the product itself? Is it the community you bring? Is it the packaging? Is it the ecosystem? There's all different ways to kind of think about how are you doing it in comparison with other people trying to solve that problem for your customers. And then the second piece is just understanding that only happens to that second piece you mentioned, is understanding how does your own product that you own work? What does it offer that the competition doesn't? Or maybe what does the competition offer that you don't, vice versa? And how do you tell that story to the customer, how it helps them? And I love that what you said there too. It's like, you're not an engineer. Product marketers aren't engineers. Some of them are, but a lot of them aren't. And that's the point, is that we're to make the technical relatable. And so that's what product marketing does, is to try to take that very technical product and make it relatable to the end customer. And then the last piece on cross-functional leadership, so huge, because product marketing doesn't happen in a vacuum. You have to work with demand generation. You, of course, have to work with product. You have to work with sales. And so all those key pieces, those are all very fundamental pieces to the skills that you need as a product marketer. So thanks for sharing that. To kind of follow on that, the next evolution of talking about skills that are important for product marketing is developing a go-to-market strategy. So in your opinion, what are the key elements you consider from the initial planning stages to the execution?
So go to market, Josh, is something like it's my belief that this is something that doesn't magically happen after a product is ready to market. I think this is something you need to start working on even before a single line of code has been written. So what this means is, together the product and marketing teams need to be engaged in deep user research, talking to customers, understanding what is the market, working with analysts, really thinking about what is this market or customer that they are building for, right? That's super, super important. And as marketing has to be a key partner as far as that is concerned. So once you have that, once you have a great product that you are working with, you have to test it out with early customers. I think that's super critical. And again, marketing should be involved there, because this is where we can get customer feedback, and we can also make sure that we have great advocates when it's time to launch. Like, you should never be launching a product that's not being tested with any customer, or that any customer is not willing to vouch for, right? Like, we need, especially in the enterprise space, you need customers to say, yes, I've tried this, I love it. It's great. And when you're creating these narratives, you need to make sure that customers relate to them, that they respond to them, that they say, yes, that's how I'm thinking of this product, and that's how you're thinking. So I think all of that is important. One of the things that I would say is as a marketer, you need to be very conscious about is your channel strategy, because remember that partners can be a very good force multiplier for you.
Absolutely.
And when in technology, as you know, Josh, we have the main partners that we work with, system integrators, and they basically reduce complexity for our customers. And all large enterprises, they have legacy environments. And sometimes it's difficult to adopt new solutions, especially when you look at AI, right? So SIs do a great job of reducing that complexity and making it easier. The ISVs are another partner type, and these are independent software vendors, and they are great because they're already taking products to market. And if they integrate your products, they're doing your marketing for you, and they
Yes.
can also advocate for you. So those two type of partners are great, at least in the work that I'm doing now. Of course, you have resellers and other distribution partners, which may be more relevant when you have package offerings. But I would say always think about who are your top partners, and make sure that you're either directly or working with partner marketing, you have plans with them to help you amplify what you're doing, and to make sure that they're ready, that their teams are ready as well, as part of your GTM strategy. Sales, I would say don't underestimate sales ever. Like you think we're going to make it, they're going to sell it because we're making it for them. Never happens like that.
Uh,
Sales is very driven by two things, right? Their leadership and their comp. I mean, they do care about their customers, but they're very, very driven by their comp and whatever their leadership is saying. So make sure that you have all the right leadership alignments and the right support to land this with your sellers, especially in the enterprise space, because you're not going to be successful if no one's talking about it with customers, no one's really selling it. And then, assuming all of those things are being done, you need to have a very solid launch plan. Like that's your one big moment to go to market. And so you need to make sure that you're covering all the engines that are critical to your audience. So in our world is, great, you need to have great messaging, and then that flows into all the PR, the AR, the social, blogs, website, all of that. And, that's like a basic 101, as you would say, for any marketer. So you need to have that solid launch plan that then generates that funnel, which you're then going to go and track from that point.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I will echo the partner marketing, super key, especially when you are a challenger brand in a specific space. They help you scale out your capabilities so much more than you could do on your own. And so it gives you that ability to multiply yourself. And so I know that I definitely had experience with partners as well at Google and my current employer. It's a great partnership to have in order to expand your reach. So I'll definitely echo that. So now that you've talked about what you do in terms of creating go to market plans and using partners and other methods and using direct sales, how do you measure the launch, the success of a go to market plan, the success of a product launch? What are those KPIs and metrics that you find most meaningful to show your impact?
So in my career, I've worked on multiple products, and there are different products, and every, if you're a SaaS product, then it's a different metric. If you have a developer facing product, then it's really adoption, trials and so on. It totally depends, Josh, on what is the product that you are bringing to market, what metrics that you will have access to. And this can be very hard in the enterprise space, as we both know, because I would love to measure the funnel, but the funnel is hard to track, in the beginning when you haven't launched anything yet. So then I would say look for what is the early adopter sentiment, what is the customer feedback, are your sellers getting really excited? Do they have that light in the eye when they're talking about your product, as excited as you are talking about it? And you can see that it does happen for really great products. I've been in customer meetings where they're lighting up, the sellers are lighting up, and everybody's like, "Yes, this is what I need. This is great." So those are some, non-metric signals that you can track. If you're talking to analysts, what feedback are they providing you? Are they saying, "Yes, I've been hearing about this as well," or are they saying, "Yeah, you said this before, and now what you're saying?" So
Yeah.
there's both some of the soft aspects of this, And then there are the hard metrics.
Right, right. So that's great because yeah, sometimes people will say one thing one day and then something the next, something else the next. So yeah, it's important to kind of get that information too. But when it comes down to the hard metrics that you really track, what are those?
So we are gold on the funnel.
Hmm.
And when I say funnel, it starts all the ways from your leads. Some people like to call it inquiries, to
Hmm.
then the qualified marketing opportunities, then how the sales accepted leads. And then from there on, you can track which sales stage they are in, and all the way to, win loss and what was the revenue generated. So we have, I mean, I think we are very lucky that today we have systems that can track this end to end. You can click a few clicks and then you can see all the details of opportunities you've created. You get some great insights into what segments you're reaching. The two things that I really like to focus on in this are on what tactics are generating the most amount of leads for you. And this is not always the tactic where you're spending the most amount of money. Sometimes this can be very surprising that, oh, I got so much from this webinar. Like I got
Yeah,
more from this little webinar that I did that I got from that other event where I spent like God knows how many thousands of dollars.
right.
It's great to know. Then you do more webinars if that happens. And then it's always good to look at that. The second thing I call is always look at your death zone of leads, because often what happens is that your leads will go from one stage to another, and then you'll have this zone where they're just going and dying, and then you don't know what's happening on that stage. So you need to look at it and understand, what is the blocker? Why is it that my leads are not progressing from this stage? And that can again be very insightful. You'll find out like what is the blocker that your sellers are running into that they're telling you about, and then you can go and feedback that into the for the product team. And I've had a couple of times where real changes were made because there were blockers that were identified by the field teams around why customers are stalling. So yeah,
Abs-
I would say hard. Oh, by the way, I also would like to add that unlike many others, I am a fan of vanity metrics. And a lot of people say, vanity metrics, what? Nobody.
right.
I
Yeah.
actually think when you're in the enterprise space and you have very targeted communications, you have a very targeted landing page, very targeted social effort. If people are, and you have a very targeted blog, if people are engaging with it, that's a great sign,
But
because I'm not going to get all kinds of riffraff engaging with my blog. I'm going to get people who are probably interested. So I actually see a correlation between vanity metrics when you're in the enterprise space and the uptake for the product. So there.
abs- absolutely. No, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. Yes, you need to have the really key metrics in terms of the funnel, as you mentioned, being able to show, the kind of the lead journey. But those vanity metrics also can help with some of that attribution. Like, did that lead to this thing, to these inquiries? And so, yeah, I think the vanity metrics, while they may not carry as much weight as trying to, see where leads go from a funnel perspective, they definitely can help show the impact that those assets have on that journey. So I'm with you on that. All right, Shagun. Well, thank you for those tips. Those are super helpful. Now we're going to go to our kind of rapid fire section where I just ask you some quick questions and whatever comes to your mind in terms of, helpful tips for other product marketers out there. If you could share those, that'd be great. So it's just about 4 questions. The first one really is, what is your favorite marketing tool?
The Gemini app, like I said, I use it every day. It's my AI companion.
Yeah. No surprise there. What is the most underrated skill in product marketing?
The most underrated skill, I would have to go back to, it is 101, but really understanding your customer.
Mhm.
We often think we know the customer segment, and that's great, but really understanding your customer is underrated.
Totally, totally. I think that again goes back to marketing 101, understanding your audience. So, uh, what's the biggest mistake to avoid in product marketing?
Over promising and under delivering.
Absolutely, yes. That can definitely get you in trouble sometimes. So, and then last rapid fire question is, what's one thing you wish you knew when you started product marketing?
There are many things, Josh, that I wish I knew, but I think one of the most important things is really sometimes it's not the numbers that matter. It's really what, like the why. The why, you have to
Mm.
get to the why, and that's how you start making sense of the numbers. You don't know that as a rookie marketer. You're like, oh, I'm very numbers driven, and but the reality, like, no, you have to be insights driven.
100%, 100%. And I think that's really critical, and that's a good way to kind of wrap this discussion up. Is the why, understanding the why behind what we're doing in product marketing, why we're trying to market this product, why does the customer need it? So that's a very solid advice. Well, we're at the end of this conversation. Thank you, Shagun, so much for being here and for sharing your journey and advice with us.
Thank you, Josh, for having me. It's a great thing to be on your podcast, and I'm glad that we caught up.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to all the listeners tuning in, thank you for being here. If you found this valuable, please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, share it with others in your network. This has been another episode of Porter's Product Marketing Podcast. Until next time, keep innovating and keep mastering the art of product marketing.